Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked for Life Fly Fishing, and today we're going to tie the tube fly version of my Dirty Harry fly. Now, if you've seen my last video in fishing in dirty water, and that's what the Dirty Harry is made for, is fishing in dirty water, you will see I had problems getting hookups because I made the wing too long. Normally in that fly, the wing is a good inch shorter than the one I made on that particular fly, and I paid the price. I kept getting these tail grabs and no hookups. Missed 4 fish. So this is a tube fly version, and the idea of it is to put the hook right at the back, so when the fish grabs the wing, at the back end of the wing, they grab the hook at the same time. And I've done this variation on my BC thingy fly. Works like a charm, very reliable hookups. So we're going to get into doing this fly, but I've already covered some of the material that I'm talking about here in terms of how I put the flies together and the type of tube I'm using. So I'm not going to go into that again because there's 2 videos that cover that. Plus, I'm not going to go into great depth about the fly because I've got the original Dirty Harry video as well. So they're up in the cards. You can have a look at those if you want to see what I'm doing here. But I'm just going to put this particular fly together, and hopefully we'll get some fish in some dirty water with it. So let's get going. So I'm using a 2.5 inch aluminum tube, which is 3/32 of an inch in outside diameter, and I've glued on 3/4 of an inch of copper tube, 1/8 inch copper tube on the front end as a weight to pull the nose down. My thread is bright red. Now this is Viva's 10/0. You don't want to be using 10/0. It's the only bright red thread I've got right now, so I'm stuck using it. But a 3/0 will be fine. You want to build up bulk with this thing, so 3/0 is best. The tag is this Uni-Mylar gold silver. The rib is this large silver oval. My body is going to be made out of purple yarn, uni yarn, and you'll notice I've put it on a bobbin for easy application. Now at this point you could also add dubbing to make a dubbing ball. Your choice, whether you choose to put it on or not. Not a huge difference in the way the fly performs. The idea is to make the marabou bulge out, but if you make a big enough head, it usually does the job anyway. We're going to use purple marabou for the one collar, and then we're going to use black marabou for the second part of the collar. The black feather is smaller than the purple feather. You want the purple feather to show more. The flash is purple crystal flash, and our wing is black bucktail. So let's get started. So we tie on our tag, and you notice I'm tying it on top at the front, and I explain that in the video on having your flies ride upright. Now you notice I have not done this neatly for a reason. As I pull this tag on tightly, you'll see it's creating ridges in here. So these ridges will help the junction tubing to grip. Now just keep that on top. You don't have to worry about being neat. This is all going to get covered up. Now we tie on the rib. Again, tie it on top. And we tie on our purple yarn. Now, pull everything up. Keep it all on top. Now when I start, because there's a bit of a bump at the back, I will keep a lot of tension on the purple, and then as I come off the bump, I'll back off the tension. You want the wraps closely spaced. You don't want too much of the underbody showing. bring it right up to the copper. Get the thread out of the way. Now for the rib. You notice I'm still putting all the material on top. All the tag ends, I should say. Now, this point is where we can put the dubbing ball, right there. And I'm going to do a little bit just to show you what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get gung-ho with this. I'm going to use this kind of fuchsia-colored UV ice dubbing. Now, you could build it up a little bit more if you wanted to. The idea, as I say, is to make the marabou puff out. Now, for our marabou collars, we tie them in by the tip. Fold it back. Now just stroke your fibers back and wind on. Try not to trap any. Keep pulling them out. If you find your fibers are starting to get trapped, just come in and kind of wiggle them free. Now for our black collar, again, we tie it in by the tip. Just fold the tip back. You notice I'm not You notice I'm not cutting off the tip. Just leave it in there. There's no point to removing it. Now the black, as I said, is a smaller feather. I've trimmed more of it off. So when I stroke this back, one of the things you can do is you can wet your fingers lightly, dampen your fingers, I should say. And this will help with the stroking of the barbs. Don't lick your fingers. Use a wet sponge or a wet cloth. Licking your fingers is a good way to come up with some very nasty infections. Now you notice that head is huge. There's a reason for that. You want this thing to push water. You need that big head. It also helps to attract fish as part of the strike package, if you will. That bright red head works for you. So next we're going to put on our crystal flash. Get maybe half a dozen strands, maybe a little bit more. Somewhere between half a dozen and 10. In that ballpark. Find the halfway spot on them. And you notice I'm tying them in at the back of the head. Pull them up. Bring them together. And lash in. I don't start it down here in the middle of the head because you'll end up with a bump there. And it'll be tough to get the head looking smooth. Now this is where 3/0 thread would have been wonderful for me. I could build up bulk very quickly. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with using this 10/0. Now for our black bucktail. As per usual, stroke the short bits out. Size it. We want it about the length of the crystal flash, which is right there. So I need to trim a little bit off. Now you notice I'm not putting it right to the end. I'm just going to pull up, so I pinch loop it, keep it on top, and then bring your thread down, wrap it into place. You try and get a smoothest taper as possible, and this again would be easier with 3/0 thread, I should say. It's hard to get that bump gone. But we'll work on it here. I'll pull my thread tight, just bind that down. And bright red 3/0 is going to be on my shopping list. Some loose wraps at the back just to keep the wing under control. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to go backwards and forwards because I'm using 10/0 and to redden up the thread so the black doesn't show through underneath. Okay, the fly I just produced didn't have a very good head on it. The head was too long. And I wanted to just redo it just to show you what this head is supposed to look like if you do it properly. Now, again, I'm using 10/0 thread. I normally would use 3/0 thread for this. It's just that I don't have any. And the head would be even bulkier. We want the bulky head to push water to cause the marabou to really fluff up. And you also want a good strike trigger too. And you want that nice slope to it. The previous one was too long simply because I started my dubbing ball too far back. That was the only reason. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a second one and just, really illustrate what the head should look like. And, as I say, it's just, make sure your dubbing ball isn't too far back and you're good to go. There's our Dirty Harry tube fly version. Something to keep in mind, the point of the hook is going to be about here. So you can see there's only a little bit of material beyond the point of the hook. It's going to encourage the fish to grab the hook instead of grabbing just the wing. So it's a very simple pattern to tie. It's very effective in dirty water. I've caught loads of fish on it, providing my wing is not too long. And I've done both tube versions and hook versions. They both work. The tube version is a little bit more reliable with hookups. I think the hook version tends to swim a little bit better. So it's 6 1/2 dozen the other. So anyway, give it a try, the Dirty Harry tube version for those days when the water is high and dirty. Cheers.